Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another special interview episode of Game Together. This one, they're all special to me, but this one is a little more special. We have an executive producer, Max McCall from Wizards of the Coast. He worked on the Universes Beyond, Magic the Gathering, Avatar The Last Airbender set that just came out on the 21st of November, or the pre-release the week beforehand if you really want. We sat down for about a 30-minute interview. This one is a little bit different due to some technical difficulties we had on our end. So that is why you see a little bit more of me in this episode. But nevertheless, this is just about the full interview, minus one question where we went off on a slight tangent due to my fault. Other than that, please enjoy, and thanks to Wizards of the Coast and Max for taking the time to chat with us. First and foremost, what was it like working on this Universes Beyond theme slash set?
It was delightful. The One of the things that's really great about working on Universes Beyond stuff is we get to work directly with the stewards of the brands that we're working with. And so, the like Brian and those guys, like they care a lot about Avatar and they really want to make sure that what we're doing is true to that. But like we only pick partners for whom we have a bunch of fans for those folks in the building. So we just had basically a bunch of Avatar nerds get together to talk about how to make cool Avatar Magic cards. It was very exciting.
In terms of when you build a new set, especially Universes Beyond, and you have to make new mechanics, the main one I'm thinking about is the different fire bending and water bending, earth, all that, the bending techniques. How did you, how did your team balance these mechanics with old mechanics?
Yeah, so I guess kind of taking a little bit of a step back to sort of talk about how we think about designing worlds in general, right? Like new worlds to Magic have to have cards of every color, creatures that fit in every color, creatures that have flying in every color is often very important. Um, and so when we're working on Magic sets, we can kind of make all that up and basically everything we need to suit our needs, we can sort of create. When we're working with Universes Beyond, it like the Magic world building system maps very cleanly onto most worlds because like concepts like justice and ambition and freedom are things that are resonant in basically every fantasy property, and those are all really core to the Magic world building. And so when we're developing new bending, like when we're building Avatar, like bending has to be something that's like really prominent to make the world feel like Avatar. Like bending is the primary thing that is unique to Avatar. And so a lot of our conversations at first were more about like, okay, well, there's four types of bending and there's five colors. So how do we square that circle? And so pretty early on, it became obvious that it wasn't going to be correct to like mapping bending to color is already automatically complicated because like for example the Fire Nation is not very red. Like red in Magic is more about like freedom and creativity and individual spirit, and the Fire Nation is very like top down authoritarian. Like the Fire Nation is somewhere between they have some white aspects, and mostly in general when you see someone from the Fire Nation they're very black in the context of Magic in terms of like they're going to do whatever it takes to succeed. And so for a lot of the bending, it's more like, okay, what is the most true to the spirit of the kind of bending, and less what does that imply for Magic colors? And so with firebending, for example, it's like, okay, you're getting all this mana, and then but you've got to use it and make it go away. Like that's more ephemeral in the context of like how the Fire Nation like military kind of works, in terms of their like these big moments. But then also for Magic in the just kind of the red color pie, like get some mana, use it or lose it. Like that actually is very red and is really fun and flavorful. And so a lot of um, but like the under the hood clever thing about that is like firebending is an ability that is on creatures that attack. And so there's actually a lot of knobs that you get to balancing a mechanic when you like only can access it via creatures that are attacking. Because like getting a bunch of mana for free is often very strong in the context of Magic. But like one thing that a lot of like typically this is very strong in the context of like, okay, I'm building some nefarious combo deck.
Hmm.
Often your nefarious combo deck would like to cast sorceries or artifacts or things that aren't instants. And it's like, well, with your firebending, you're out of luck. You have to spend all the mana at instant speed. Um, and also like one of the things that makes decks like that somewhat pernicious is the extent to which they are decks that don't interact via normal means. But if all of your firebending cheaty mana is coming from creatures, then all of your opponent's creature removal is useful. And so there are like kind of automatic built-in levers to the extent that like, oh, like firebending is stronger than we thought it was. Like put more removal spells in your deck. You'll be able to kill your opponent's firebending creatures. And they'll like there'll be natural counterplay in that fashion.
I'll ask the side question as well because I don't seem to quite understand the usefulness of it. How does earthbending work and how is it useful?
So earthbending is like fundamentally earthbending turns your lands into creatures. So you take you earthbend something and it, it turns your land into a creature and then earthbend and put N counters on your creature. But then also like um one of the things that prevents a lot of like lands turning into creature mechanics from being fun is when your creature that when your land becomes a creature gets destroyed, you get like massively whammied because you would like to use that land to cast your spells. And so Earth is basically like, hey, if your land would die, don't worry about it. It just comes back to normal. And so, in general, like you can use your earthbending in a couple of ways. One of them is to just like turn all of your lands into creatures and then attack with them because you put you know 24-ish lands in your deck. One of the things that can be challenging is if you draw a lot of lands, then you didn't draw very many spells, and so you don't have very many things to attack with. But you earthbend all of your lands into creatures, that like gives you a lot of mitigation against mana flood. There's also stuff like Badgermole Cub is an earthbending creature that makes creatures that tap for mana give you extra mana. So like
Hmm.
when you turn your land into a creature, now it's a creature that taps for mana. So in addition to being this creature you can attack with, it's also generating extra mana for you, and there's various shenanigans you can pull off with that.
Makes a lot more sense to me now. How long does it take to develop a set like this?
Many years. I'm trying to remember. I was definitely working on Avatar in 2022, and like one of the challenges with this is that because we're working on so many sets at different moments, like I lose track of what year it actually is when I'm working on the set. Um, but yeah, like in general, it takes us between 2 and 4 years to build a set from like okay, make an avatar set go. It was closer to 4 years than two, because there was a lot of work involved in like, hey, we got to make the art style look true to Avatar, but also true to Magic. Like threading that needle is complicated. We've got to figure out what bending should be in this world. We're like starting from a previously built world makes some things easier and makes some things harder. And on balance, it takes a little bit more time, especially because all the folks want to review the thing and make sure that the way that we interpreted Aang is true to how the Avatar folks interpret Aang and so on.
Avatar is partially a Nickelodeon property, and you have another partially Nickelodeon property coming up with TMNT. What is it like to who goes to who? Does Wizard slash Magic go to the company, or does the company come to you guys for these Universes Beyond
It
sets?
varies a lot. Like in general, like folks that have lots of fans broadly would like for their fans to have more things that they love. And so, the overlap between like inside Wizards, the overlap between Avatar fans and Magic fans is that Venn diagram is close to a circle. Um, I don't actually know who came to who in the context of Avatar and Turtles. It was an easy conversation in terms of like, oh, the like lots of our folks are into this. Like we should make something that lots of our folks will like. But like it's basically just fan service all the way down.
Including talking about that fan service, there is the beginner box.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on it because reading about the beginner box, it's this fight between Aang and Zuko, and it's something we see oftentimes in the show, except until like season
Yeah.
3/4 when they become friends. One, when it came to designing this beginner box, it seems obvious, like, yeah, do the Aang versus Zuko battle. But why did you decide to do that instead of, say, Aang versus the Fire Lord or another character? And then two, how did you go about writing this story so that players of one fandom or the other would go, oh, I want to learn more about the game now or the show?
Yeah. So in general, the beginner box is for people who are new to Magic, who don't um who are interested in the game, but like Magic is very complicated and learning how to play it is hard. And so the beginner box is this box that contains a couple of starter booklets of like, hey, here's how to play Magic, here's how to like playing lands and casting spells work, here's how attacking works, and so on. But then also it contains a bunch of jumpstart decks that you can mix and match and get various decks of various folks teaming up and working together. And so Aang and Zuko are like among the most popular of Avatar characters, and specifically they're among the most popular Avatar characters for whom to have them fighting isn't weird. Like Aang versus Katara on the box at the beginning is like, yeah, that's like if you know anything about Avatar, that's not super organic. And it's important for stuff like this to be true to like what Avatar fans would expect of people fighting in those respects. Um, and so it's like, okay, we want Aang and Zuko having a like the narrative around why Aang and Zuko were fighting is not that hard. Obviously, they're Zuko's on a hunt for the Avatar. But like a lot of the writing actually comes into like, okay, we're going to expose the player to this concept, which is foundational to the concept we'll teach them on the next turn, which is foundational to the concept we'll teach them on the next turn. That actually does require a fair amount of iteration and tweaking because again, like Magic is pretty complicated. We really want it to be easy to learn, and so like figuring out how to present the information kind of in the right order to smooth people's journey into learning how to play the game is really the hard part.
Are there plans for more beginner boxes for future sets? And if you can't answer that question, that's fine.
We so in general, people learning how to play Magic is good. The beginner box we started that with foundations, and they were successful. I was very pleased that we were able to incorporate them into Avatar. Um, we definitely want as many things as possible to make it easier for people to learn to love Magic.
Moving on, I have to ask about the commander bundle because it's different this time. It's not
Yeah.
used to the normal, hey, here's your commander and here's the pre-con deck. It's more on that line of people you kind of get to build your own deck this time. Why that
Yeah.
why the change?
A lot of that is rooted in for um, Avatar commander decks are tricky because of the nature of the color identity rules of Magic. So broadly, like your commander deck has to have characters that are all somewhat philosophically aligned. And one of the problems with that in Avatar is like one, many of the characters are philosophically not aligned. And also like their philosophies evolve over the course of the show. And so like a commander deck is kind of like snapshotting people at various stages of development. And there's not like a period in the show where there's some kind of holistic like, oh, it makes sense for all of these characters to be like on the same side, which is basically a metaphor for being in the same deck all at once. Like we all of our builds, we ended up having to leave some characters out in ways that didn't feel very true to what the show was doing, or we'd have to like it would make sense to try to include characters who philosophically didn't quite align, and that's not really true to the Magic side of things. And we weren't really very satisfied with any of that. Um, but also like we were making this Avatar set. People are going to play Commander with Avatar cards. We need to make an Avatar Soul Ring.
Mhm.
And so the Commander bundle is really rooted in, hey, like how do we get people kind of some staples for their Avatar Commander deck that they're not otherwise going to be able to find as their opening packs. And so that's where the Commander bundle was rooted in. You get a bunch of booster packs. You also get a collector booster, and then you get a Soul Ring, and a few other cards that are pretty ubiquitous Commander staples. and you can put them all in whatever deck you like. It can be all Avatar themed, or they'll just go in your current deck and they'll be just fine.
When it comes to the price of those bundles or your beginner boxes or just even booster packs, I imagine you don't necessarily have a say in it, but when you see the post market kind of skyrocketing in price, what does that mean for you guys at Wizards?
I mean, in general, we really like we would like for everybody to get and play with Magic cards. And the trick for that is basically we have to decide how much of the product to make months in advance of the set releasing. Um, and sometimes we get that wrong, and that's unfortunate, right? Because it reflects that there's like a lot more people who wanted the Commander bundle than we're going to be able to get them to, and um, like it's true, like, oh, we could have made more money, like we like making more money, obviously, but like really we like giving people what they want. And so a lot of the reasons that's seen as a miss on our part is like, oh, like we could have gotten more people these Avatar Soul Rings, and we didn't. That's a shame. And we'll take that information and we'll do better next time.
In previous interviews, you've mentioned that Strip Mine is one of your favorite cards.
That's
Is that
true.
still true? And why do you want to cause people to suffer?
It is still true. Yeah, my like Rockwell meme of freedom of speech is basically land destruction is fun, actually. And a lot of that is rooted in the idea, like one of the things that is really powerful for a lot of Magic players is the sense of agency they have over the game, mostly in terms of how they build their deck, right? Like people spend a lot of time building and customizing their deck to be reflective of how they want to play or how they think or what cards they like or what art they like. And it's really powerful to um, be able to play Magic in the way that you want. And a corollary of that is it's really transgressive in ways that often people enjoy to prevent your opponent from playing Magic in the way that they would like. That can be, and for me is very fun in terms of like, oh, you thought it was going to be one way, but actually, like, I am the one dictating the terms of the way the game works. Like, I would agree that Strip Mine is like way over on rate, kind of in the same way. It's not as strong as like Moxes or whatever, but
Mhm.
like Destroy a Land for no mana is very strong. Like I definitely agree with that. But like the concept of land destruction as being like something that is not fun in any case isn't something I really agree with. Like you also kind of see this in Commander where people say, oh, like green is the best color in Commander because you just like keep ramping forever and then you just have more and more expensive cards. And it's like, okay, well, what if I prevent my green opponent from tapping 20 mana for something? And it's like, oh, then you're the worst person. It's like, I think I'm the good guy here, where I'm the one providing counterplay to the rest of the table from preventing them from doing their outrageous shenanigans. And so that's my soapbox on why land destruction can be and is fun.
Back onto the theme of Avatar: The Last Airbender, tell me about the art and the process of adding such beautiful art. I mean, the background behind you is part from it, seeing all the different lands and just the different cards in general. They're fantastically done.
We're actually really pleased with that because we spent a lot of time with the Avatar team talking about what the art style should look like because like Magic's general kind of default style like has a lot of the same magical realism elements that Avatar does. Like we're not strangers to fantasy by any means. Um, but like Avatar specifically is in this more, I don't want to say anime style in the kind of traditional sense of the word, but it's a lot more I guess painterly than kind of a lot of normal, like I'll say regular Magic style card, and like figuring out how and where to draw those lines and like what elements were things that were like where can you take a funny riff from the show and put that into art and have it be tonally appropriate um was something that, like we really wanted to do because that humor is a big part of Avatar, but like doing that in a way that's satisfying and also true to like both Magic and Avatar was really challenging. And but that was a needle we got to thread a bunch of times. Like A lot of the Aang and Toph cards show a lot of them being playful together. We have a bunch of riffs on Cabbage Guy, uh, and we're actually really satisfied with how a lot of the art came out. I think it looks really good.
I know I'm running low on time with you, so I'll ask you a couple more questions. Of one, do you have a favorite mechanic from this set?
I like firebending a lot. Um, it like the way you can build firebending decks kind of lets you opt in as far as you want. And again, it's on creatures that attack, so like the gameplay is kind of like automatically satisfying. And it like gives you a lot of options in ways that are all constrained. Like most of the firebending cards have some way to spend the mana in like kind of inefficient fashion. So you never feel like you're losing out, but you're always like inspired to find more cool ways to do clever tricks. And I find that satisfying both in deck building and in gameplay.
If you can, just tell me about your journey of you started as an intern at Wizards. You went to Blizzard for a little bit and then you came back, and now you're
Yeah.
at this very higher management position. How did that happen?
So I started playing Magic when I was a small child, in Ice Age in 1995. Um, and so I played Magic all my life. And I was writing strategy articles as kind of content marketing for Magic websites, um, which sort of brought me to the attention of some folks at Wizards. And I chatted with them, and we agreed it made sense. Like there was no kind of like game design degrees didn't exist back then. So it was sort of like, oh, you like think critically about Magic and card design and the implications that has on how to make the game more fun as opposed to making the game more interesting. Um, and so that's the kind of skill set that they were looking for. And so I started working on Dark Ascension, I think, was the first set that I was working on. No, actually, the flashback cost on Forbidden Alchemy, the Innistrad card that's 3 mana impulse, mill the rest. One of the first decks I built was a version of Solar Flare, and was like, oh, we should probably make this card flashback for a little bit more mana. So I worked there for a few years. I was working on Tools of the Planeswalkers a lot in Magic Online. Um, I went to Blizzard for a few years. I came back. Southern California is very brown. It's like I grew up in Portland, and I live in Seattle, and so like moving to a place where it never rained was like very eerie. And so I missed Seattle quite a bit, and came back actually working on design for a lot of new player products for kind of the proto versions of what would eventually become the beginner box. Um, but during the pandemic, I started doing more and more work on the strategy side with collation and kind of more product designy bits that led me to move over to the product team for tabletop. And that's, been going great ever since. Like again, like I played Magic all my life, so it's really special to me to be able to like be the person who gets to kind of steward the game through the next era. Like I have, um, like almost all my friends are people who I met through Magic in some fashion. And like these are people I've known for 20 years, and being part of a game that can facilitate those kind of relationships is really special.
How do you keep a game like this fresh for yourself?
So I play a bunch of like every year, me and some friends go to a cabin in the woods and play formats that we just made up. Um, so it'll be like you all get assigned 9 random sets, and you have to play a couple of cards from each set. Build decks from that and play. We'll do like we've rotisserie drafted all of the cards in old school, um, and made a bunch of like commander variants that are all kind of like new and different ways to like build decks in new contexts. It's a lot of fun, and then we do a bunch of cube drafting, and it's always a great time.
Is there a banned card you want to come back?
Strip mine, I guess. I hmm. I guess strip mine being the one that comes to mind is uh it's certainly not the most reasonable card to come back. Um, it is a card that I could imagine. I was gonna say unrestricting that could be reasonable for vintage. That's probably not true. Um, but it's the kind of vibe of like, oh, wouldn't it be fun to have this if only for a short time again before it had to go away?
And then finally, is there anything else, especially from this new Avatar set, that you want to tell viewers about?
Avatar is great. Like, so specifically, so Avatar is great. And I mean, in a lot of sense. Like, if you haven't seen the show, you really should watch it. Avatar is like very heartwarming and very charming. It's great to watch with like younger relatives. It's great to watch like even for adults. Like, it handles a lot of adult themes in really tasteful fashion, and also the show is very funny and the art is very beautiful. Um, so the show is great. Also, if you don't like the show but you do like Magic, like the cards are all fun. They're all uh, cool new characters with new mechanics, and you can build some decks and have a great time.
Max, thank you so much for taking the time to join us on Game Together for this interview.
Cheers. Thanks a lot, Joe.
Again, thanks to Wizards and Max for taking the time to talk with us. We will be back next week, I promise, with our Dungeons and Dragons episode. We just taped it this past week for Thanksgiving. And other than the editing that I'm going to have to go through for that, we're really looking forward to it. Please, please enjoy and have a great weekend.